So did Sir Keir Starmer just give a great speech? Stay tuned to find out. The Chinese proverb that says, "May you live in interesting times," is also actually a curse. And right now in Britain, it seems like we are living in very interesting times. There's, of course, been Brexit, there's surging inflation, energy prices going through the roof, and the Conservatives have just changed their leader, which means there have been 4 different leaders in the last 6 years. That means if you are leader of the opposition, the Labour Party, then times should really be pretty good for you politically. So this week, Sir Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party, gave the keynote speech at the annual Labour Party conference in Liverpool. Pretty important occasion because it was an opportunity for him to present the Labour Party as a potential government in waiting. Get it right and he could be the next Prime Minister. Get it wrong and he could join a pretty long list of Labour leaders who just couldn't convince the country of their leadership potential. So a lot was riding on this speech. So let's have a look how he did. Now, as always, I will only be assessing his speech from a communication skills point of view. Whether his plans and policies are actually going to be good for the country is well above my pay grade, so don't judge me. As always, please do like and subscribe this video. It tells the YouTube algorithm mathematicians that this stuff is worth watching. And with that, let's get to it. So, the first thing to think about is what was his objective, and that's really important whenever you have a speech or presentation or some piece of communication to do. You want to think about what is your purpose, because otherwise you're pretty much giving a pointless speech. And in this case, Sir Keir Starmer clearly wanted to make sure that people came out of it thinking that the Labour Party was ready to be the next government. That is what you want to think about with your objective. What do I want people to know or to believe or to do as a result of my speech? And by that target mark, it's pretty clear that he achieved his objective. He got universal praise from members of the public, from the media alike, and even right-wing media. The Daily Telegraph said that voting for Labour would be a not mad option. High praise indeed. So well done there on achieving his objective. Now, in addition to your objective, you always will have a personal motivation. So that is what you want people to think about you personally as a result of your speech. And in this case, I think Sir Keir Starmer was looking to make sure that people would also see him as a Labour leader in waiting, a potential next Prime Minister. And again, on this, I think he pretty much achieved his objective. In particular, there is one main problem that Sir Keir Starmer had going into this speech, which is that when people were asked to give their opinion of him, as well as saying, yes, he's a decent guy and he's reliable and he's honest, they also find him pretty boring. And that is a particularly important thing to deal with because, of course, most of the time, the public don't like boring leaders. So the question is, did he, as a result of this speech, manage to change that opinion of himself? And my view of that is no. He didn't change people's opinion of him as to whether he is boring and bland or not. In fact, I think he did one thing better, which is that he used it to his advantage by presenting himself as a counterpoint to the kind of clownish buffoonness of Boris Johnson or the kind of insubstantial lightweight nature of Liz Truss. He actually said to the country, in this time of difficulty, in this time of crisis, yes, I am a little bit bland, but you want that because I am also weighty and substantial and serious, and that is what is called for in this time. So in terms of achieving his personal motivation, his personal goal for what he wanted people to think about, I think he achieved his objective. And that is also pretty important because the day before, his shadow chancellor, a lady called Rachel Reeves, had given a pretty barnstorming performance. And if Sir Keir Starmer had not performed in this speech, I predicted that actually there would be rumblings of, oh, maybe we need to change to her as leader. But he gave a great speech. He got the right plaudits for it. And so I think he achieved his personal goal for himself in this speech as well. So let's look at some of the fundamentals or the different aspects of the speech. Firstly, how long was it? It was 49 minutes long. Now, in political terms, that is about an average length of a speech. I honestly do not understand why they have to have such long speeches. It really is just become a convention that people follow, as opposed to that it really needs to be that long to get across your point. After all, the greatest political speech ever given was Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, and that lasted precisely 2 minutes. So, yes, it was long, but in political terms, it was pretty average, so no real criticism of him for that. In general, great speeches feel too short, poor speeches feel too long, and I think people felt that he spoke about the right length of time. Make of that what you will. So there is a thing that happens with political speeches more than ordinary speeches, where you have to have a backdrop, usually with people behind you, cheering you on and laughing in all the right places. And Sir Keir Starmer did that with his backdrop. I'm fine with it. I don't understand why it has to be done, but it seems to be the convention. But do make sure that the people are paying attention or they're not doing other things, because that can become a bit of a distraction. But in general, the backdrop was fine. So it was a well set up speech from a visual point of view. Yeah, pretty much full marks there. Keir is not a funny guy, so although I know he was trying to lose the bland, boring tag that has been applied to him, I don't think he should really try and do it through jokes. He told a joke right at the beginning of his speech. Little tip, you don't have to tell a joke right at the beginning of your speech. I know there's a convention that says you must put the audience at ease, but really it's fine to just get on with what you want to say. And especially the joke that he gave was something about Arsenal, even though he was in Liverpool as a city. Just not a good idea. And then he tried another joke, which just didn't really work.
Yesterday, we even managed to get a Liverpool crowd cheering Gary Neville.
Yeah, so he only really tried a couple. I'm glad he didn't go all out and try and be the funny man, because he isn't. And really that's a lesson to us all. Better to lean into who you are naturally and authentically than trying to be something that you're not. Audiences will always see through that. What I actually really liked about this speech, what elevated it to the kind of good, I'd say B+ to A- status, was that he actually used some classic rhetorical flourishes, which he doesn't necessarily always do, to enhance his speech. So he used repetition and the rule of three.
The government has lost control of the British economy. And for what? They've crashed the pound. And for what? Higher interest rates, higher inflation, higher borrowing. And for what? Because some nation is going to lead the world in offshore wind. Why not this one? Some nation will win the race for electric vehicles. Why not us? Some nation will be the first to harness new hydrogen power. Why not Britain?
He used compelling imagery to really drive his point home.
Talking to doctors in my local hospital, I said, the NHS is on its knees, isn't it? And they said, no, Keir, it's face down on the floor.
And he wasn't afraid to vary his tempo and his volume to really enhance the message he was trying to share.
An effort that will double Britain's onshore wind capacity, treble solar power, quadruple offshore wind, invest in tidal, hydrogen, nuclear, back carbon capture, commit to green steel production, new renewable ports, new gigafactories, and insulate 19 million homes.
I also noticed that he used a technique that really is about framing your opposition. I first saw this with Steve Jobs, in fact, when he unveiled the iPhone in 2007. And he spent a lot of time talking about the smartphones that were out at the time, the Blackberries and so forth, and showing how they really weren't that smart. And as soon as people heard it, they started looking to those phones and seeing them in a different light. They had Steve Jobs' message in their heads whenever they interacted with those other smartphones. So Sir Keir Starmer did the same thing here in framing what the Conservatives are all about, so that the next time you heard them, you'd be thinking about what Sir Keir had said about them.
And in their budget last week, they sent out a new message. A message that echoes around the kitchens and workplaces of families right across the country and says, your struggles, your hopes, your ambitions don't matter to us. We are not here for you. You are not our people. We are here for those at the top, and the rest of you can shove off.
That is really effective politics, but it's also really effective communication. Well done, Sir Keir. Well done. And finally, and probably best of all, he made it a point to set out his vision for kind of what he wanted the country to be. Because it's not enough to just criticize your opposition. It's not enough to just say some nice things. You have to also give people an idea of what things will be like for you or for them if you were their leader. Napoleon once said that a leader is a dealer in hope. And all leaders, whenever they're communicating, always have to give a sense to people of what is on the other side of the hill if they were to become the leader.
Imagining that we're looking back at the first term of the next Labour government. How is Britain different? I'll tell you. We've defeated the cost of living crisis, and the clouds of anxiety have lifted. Services are there when you need them. Our economy is stable again. Business has the certainty to invest. The NHS is back in good health. And people are starting to raise their sights, believe in Britain again. Britain is fairer. People feel they can get on. There's more opportunity, more affordable housing, fairer taxes, higher wages, jobs more secure. Families can aspire again.
So all in all, I thought it was a pretty good speech. Whether it will be enough to make him the next Prime Minister, who knows? Labour have pulled quite far ahead in the polls, but polls don't mean that much until people actually have to vote. For now, though, I give it a B+ stroke A-, depending on how I feel at any given time. But yeah, well done, Sir Keir, well done. And let's see how it goes for you in the years ahead. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up, a like, maybe a comment as to what you thought of his speech. And whenever you are ready to start working on your communication skills, just reach out to me with the links you'll see with this page. And I will see you on the next video.